Alright, what's up, LEGOthon? Today, me and Captain Paxo are going to be running LEGO The Hobbit Restricted NLE. So, what that means is we're going to be playing the game with VSync on the whole time. So, that means a lot of launches and also horse clipping will not be possible because we're stuck on a fixed frame rate of 60 FPS. So it allows for a lot sorry about the dogs if you can hear that. It allows for a lot of cool different routes that you wouldn't see in the normal games. So, we can get started if you're ready. So we can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
Yeah, we might be having some connection issues at the front. I cannot see the game again. Oh, hold up. I think I might have got it. We might be good.
Alright, we'll see.
Yeah, we're good now.
Built deep within the mountain itself, the beauty of this fortress city was...
So here in this first room...
This is...
Oh wait, are you able to call in?
Nope.
Uh-oh. You want me to try to re-invite you real quick?
This is not... yeah. Not exactly the way we wanted this run to start, let's say.
Yeah.
But hopefully things will sort themselves out.
Alright, should be re-invited.
Yep.
Alright, let's see if we can call in.
I cannot see the game yet. It might be that you need to change stream settings or something, I'm not sure. Lots is saying drop in keyboard, drop out, drop in on keyboard.
Let me try this again. Alright.
Right.
Is that working?
Oh, we got something, maybe? We got something?
Oh. There we go.
Yes, I am here.
Okay, here we go. So yeah, in that first room, didn't really miss much. Not a ton going on. Just breaking some stuff, building a hammer for the other person to fix the machine to open the door. And same thing for this room, sort of just walking through a hallway, looking through Erebor, and making your way towards the mining room, which we'll see here. Uh-oh. Do we have more connection issues?
Yeah, I don't think this is working, Hamster.
Yeah, your voice sounds like it's cutting out a lot.
Like it. Right. How about you play this solo and I'll be on comms.
All right, how about that? That'll work. So are you able to drop out right now?
No. I can see one frame. Although that frame is at 60 FPS, that's a good sign.
Okay, it looks like you're in the pause screen.
Yeah, oh, I did pause. Wow.
Alright.
Alright, there we go.
Okay, we'll see if I'm able to call in here. Might have to go on
You
keyboard.
may need to.
Sorry about this.
That's you.
Yeah. Controls. Alright. Bit of a rough patch there. But here we go. So some 1P2C here to lower these bars, and then we get on to one of the biggest skips in the game, actually. So if you want to explain what that is, Paxo?
Yeah, so this skip just now is going to be gem skip, which was found very early on in the game's progression. Basically, what you've got to do is you've got this line which triggers a camera pan, or this area which triggers a camera pan. By doing a precise jump dive and drop in, you should be able to skip it, but I don't think that will have worked.
It looks like... Oh, here, I need to end the stream remote play. It seems like some ghost just called in or something, because I don't know what is going on, but I can't control any of my
Interesting.
devices. This is a bit of a disaster.
This is the perfect start to the LEGOthon run, the one we were looking for, in fact.
I can't control my game at all. Alright, well, I can call in that player, but now my other one isn't working. So let's see if we can get this going. Still doesn't want to call in. Alright, there we go. Hopefully this works now. So, obviously, I had to do that because 1P2C is a super important part of the speedrun. So, yeah, there's a lot of 1P2C because you can't just launch, skip over everything. So I'll be doing a lot of co-oping with myself in order to just collect all these gems for this room. Now, normally we do have a skip here, but because I missed it, due to the controller issues, I will be collecting all of these gems and putting them in here to forge this this key for the door.
Yeah, so what's happened there is we've got the perfect time to explain the game's inbuilt resources feature. This is something that's not in pretty much any other LEGO game. I don't think in the way it works that you have different amount of items that you can get or loot, which you can collect through doing different things and breaking different items. That is very important over the first half of the run. We use that actually quite a lot to be able to just get everything we need and to complete all the builds that we need. We haven't seen a build yet, but one will be coming up in... When's the first one come up?
The first build comes up in just this next room right here.
Okay, yep. I should remember that.
Alright, yeah, so in this room, it's a pretty bottlenecked room. You're kind of stuck on a bunch of timers. You're just waiting for a bunch of things, but basically you have to give this guy a flute. And when you do, you'll have access to his special hammer, which can mine the ores on the ground. And that will sort of let us progress through this room to where we find the Arkenstone, which is sort of the central plot of the whole Hobbit thing. Super rare and valuable gem. It's one of a kind.
Yep, but to be able to build the mining rig, you might have just caught the building platform on the bottom of the screen there, but that is what we that's what we need. And to get it, you need, I believe, 4 wood, 2 rope, 4 stone, and 4 copper or something. Obviously here we want to get way more than that, because we need to be able to get more for later, effectively, because there's some builds in about half an hour which are they take about 20 wood and 20 rope and stuff, so we kind of stash up now, make sure we have enough, and then that future-proofs us a bit in a way. We're also seeing the building menu here, so that's used to build all the crafts. All the items appear in same place, or it's not the same place. They're always the same item, but they appear in a different place each time.
Down into the dark. And that is where they found it.
Alright, so this is a pretty cool room right here. A lot of different history of the skips throughout the room, but basically what I just did there is this game has a mechanic of letting player 2 move early. In rooms, like, they get control of being able to move far before player 1 does, and you can actually jump into that barrier before it spawns and completely sequence break the entire room. So, very cool skip there. Usually you'd have to do a lot of other skips that take a lot longer, and the room itself is like 2 or 3 minutes casually, but with that you can beat the room in about 11 seconds, or not, I think it's around that.
Yeah, that was one of the many finds in kind of restricted any percentage quest for this game. One of the many things that were found that you can literally jump over that barrier before the invisible wall. There's another one in this room right here. We're going to be doing what's known as the gold room jumps, or the buffer jumps. Basically what Hamster is going to do is he's going to get a vertical buddy up, which is a mechanic to bring basically 2 hobbits joined together and effectively are controlled by 1 player in this vertical formation. And then Hamster is going to be buffer jumping over the gold. The only caveat to this is whenever you land, whenever the frame you are touching the ground, you have to be on neutral on the stick. You can't be holding a direction, because if you do, the buffer jump drops. But that skips an entire room, basically going A to B as fast as possible.
Yeah, so that is pretty much the first level done right there. This is the last of 8 rooms in this level. It took me about twice as long as I would have wanted, but aside from the technical difficulties and missing the gem skip, it went relatively fine.
Nah, I think a 12-minute time in the split is about pacing, to be honest.
Yeah. So yeah, and here we're just in the status screen, and if you'll notice, in this level you can kind of see that there's studs showing up, and in some later levels we'll intentionally get 0 studs in the level by taking a bunch of deaths over and over again, and that will allow us to skip the status screens, which is a nice little 3.5-second time save.
Yeah, there's only a few levels where that's possible, actually, just because of the nature of how small of a save it is. But obviously the ones where it is, it's very useful to get that.
Can I come in to read a quick donation?
Go for it.
We have $21 from Raffo, and he's putting it towards the Lord of the Rings pig percent incentive, and all incentives have now been met.
Yo, let's go.
So thank everybody.
Which way, laddie? Is it down here? It is what's down where?
That's huge. Pig percent is one of my favorite things in Lord of the Rings, so that would be really cool to see Bloodborne showing that off. Right now, this section is, well, this level in general is a bit of a weird level, really. A lot of it revolves around this resource gathering mechanic, so in these next few rooms, the entire purpose is to collect all the resources you need to then be able to build the final build on the very left of Bilbo's house, really. So Hamster's going to be going through with both characters, making sure getting enough wood, leather, rope, and stone, I believe, are the 4 requirements to be able to complete this build. And you might have also noticed a couple of times Hamster, or above the character's head that Hamster is controlling, there is a like button B, and then a circle which kind of loads up around it. That is to do a charged special attack, which we will use a lot during the run, because it does a lot wider area of damage, which can be very useful when gathering resources, and also has some added side effects, like in some places it gives speed boosts as well with certain items and stuff.
So yeah, in this section, it's a pretty funny little short section, but we will be grabbing 3 different food items for the dwarves that are coming in. And it's funny. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I don't know why I did. And now we have a really funny glitch. So usually in this section, you have to press 3 buttons every time a character gets the plate, and then he'll pass the plate on to the next person. But if you drop out over and over again, drop out and call in for both players, you can skip the button pressing, which saves like 20 seconds in total, which is really nice for a level that is pretty much an auto-scroller.
Yep. You'll notice it also counts as a death because every time it happens, you lose 1,000 studs on that player. So it's the same punishment as if you died in this section, which is kind of an interesting way of handling not being able to throw a plate, but I guess it works.
Alright, and that is 2 levels down right there, 1/8 of the way through the run.
Thankfully that one was a lot quicker than the first one.
Yeah. We have a longer level coming up here. With unrestricted FPS, this is actually one of the shortest levels in the game. It may actually be the shortest. I can't quite remember. But yeah, a very short level if you have unrestricted FPS, because there's an nth level trigger that you can hit in the second room, like usually an extremely long room. But with VSync on, we can't do that, so you actually get to see some cool skips that have been routed out as the trigger got implemented into runs. So
yeah, so there's cool skips and a bit of optimization. The first one, or the very first skip, will be a buddy up launch, which we haven't seen before. Basically, the buddy up mechanic in this game is a mechanic where 2 small characters, so dwarves or hobbits, join together, and like I said, as in the very first level when we did the buffer jumps, they move effectively as one character, controlled by the main character to pick them up. However, if you do that pickup when there's a bit of collision in the way, then that collision will obviously interfere with the pickup, and it can result in a launch. There's very specific setups for which it works, very specific criteria for it to work, but in the places where it does work, it's very useful to be able to save time, although it is not the most consistent trick in the world.
yeah, especially with VSync on, it makes the launches a lot lower because the launches are usually FPS dependent, so there are only a couple that you can actually do. But yeah, we'll be doing one over here in between these 2. It's a rock and a bush. And you'll see we got a little height there. Not enough to make it all the way to the top of the level where there's an apple that you want to grab. But we can do another one right here.
And this one, if anything, is even more finicky than the one before.
Yeah. There we go. Grab the mini kit as well, just for some swag.
Of course, of course.
And now...
I noticed...
Or sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, I noticed you didn't try and land in the bonus room this time.
Yeah, there is a bonus room that you can get into. You're not usually supposed to be able to get into it, but... you can, with that launch, land behind the gate and hit the trigger from the back, which is a cool little story kits thing. Not useful in any category because there are some free play only kits in there, so not in all mini kits things, but still a very cool. Yeah. Oops.
And what you're going to notice here, through the first part of this level, is Hamster's going to be saving the game, which I did not expect to happen. But what's actually going to happen is we're going to see this buddy up mechanic a lot more, specifically the horizontal buddy up mechanic, and doing spin attacks. So just by regular attacking, when you're in this buddy up position, you get spin attacks. And these are very good because these can insta-kill some of the orcs, which is very useful if positioned just right. It's a bit finicky to be able to get it, but it's much easier to do it with the horizontal buddy up than with the vertical buddy up. You see Hamster. I think it's something like the non-playing character. If they manage to get the hit on the spin, then it leads to an insta-kill, which is a bit difficult to try and predict, but it definitely does save time over the course of that segment, rather than hitting each of those silver enemies 3 times.
Yeah. So here we're gonna see a cool little optimization. So there's usually a little mini cutscene that plays here. I got it. But if you buddy up inside the wall while you do that, he doesn't do that whole spin attack. It just instantly breaks. So we'll see if I can get that later.
Yeah, you can kind of clip into that wall a bit to make it happen. It's only a very small clip, but it does work. He's got another attempt to try it once he's cleared out this wave of enemies. There's another one of these towers which spawns.
Yeah. So yeah, we have to break these 2 pillars and it'll teleport us into the boss fight. So yeah, this room does have a trigger that is theoretically possible to hit in this category, but it's just super inconsistent and you need a dumb launch to do so. But
it's actually nice getting to play this level every once in a while.
yeah. Like, this room isn't played at all in any category. Aside from this one, yeah. So...
We're gonna see again clearing out these waves of enemies. The enemies with a shield, so the gold armor enemies, cannot be cleared out by using these spin attacks. You have to first break their shield, and then you can hit them with the spin attacks. So sometimes it's faster to do that, sometimes it's not, depending on the kind of micro RNG on where they've ran. We now see the boss fight, and there's immediately a cool tech that's going to be going on here. Hamster's going to get a vertical buddy up and do what's known as a buddy drop by depositing the player, the top character, on top of that little area here, and that's going to be really useful for the end of the boss fight. It's not useful now at all.
Yeah, but it abuses the fact that having a vertical buddy up gives the characters just some extra height plus a jump, so you can kind of get almost a double jump, really. And then, yeah, I jumped on that axe plate where there's usually a mini kit behind there, but you're able to jump on that to skip a little puzzle and jump straight up to Azog right here to start the second of the 3 phases for this fight.
Yeah, believe it or not, that's not supposed to be the way that you do it, but I don't think we're going to complain too much.
Yeah, it's very easy, so nothing difficult there. And yeah, usually there's a whole puzzle on this right side of the room that you have to do. It's like 2 or 3 things. But after this plays, he jumps over there, and because we left Pichu over there while Azog was kind of just doing something at the beginning of the fight, it doesn't lose any time to just drop him off there, and he's already there. So it's I think it saves 15-20 seconds, which is very, very convenient.
It's a very nice save to have, and if you do it optimally, it doesn't lose any time at all to go for it.
Yeah. So yeah, that room done. One of the longest rooms in the game in this category. So it's a cool one to play every once in a while. It gets a little old, but it does have some cool stuff in it.
And so now we're going to see some slight sequence breaking in the hub. Not really sequence breaking, but there's a build that we're meant to do to be able to build a bridge to get across one of the rivers. I can't remember the name of the river. But instead of doing that, we are going to do a hover over it. And this is the first hover we've seen, so Hamster, do you want to explain it?
Yeah, so basically in this game, they forgot how to, or they just forgot to put a check in while using the buddy up mechanic. If you're buddied up and you just start spamming the attack button over and over again, you will kind of stay midair, and it's not really noticeable in a casual playthrough because you'll usually be holding a direction while you are mashing the attack button because you're trying to move. But because the hover kind of moves you naturally, if you don't hold any inputs while you mash the attack button, you can just kind of fly like this, or hover. So I will hover across this bridge. Usually this part of the area is used to introduce you to it's used to introduce you to just the quest function for 100%ing the game. But
Nah.
yeah, we just decided to skip it. Saves a lot of time.
Absolutely. And this level is an interesting one because for the first room, which is, although technically they're all on the same room, the first area that you can walk in and the last room as well are in this forced rolling state. And that is quite annoying for a speedrun because you lose most of your abilities, especially in a restricted category because there's no way of launching. Normally, you'd be able to V-sync launch and do what's known as pony skip, which is only freeing the pony on the left here, and that automatically progresses the room. But instead, we have to go and free the pony on the right before we can free the pony on the left.
Yeah, so this room is played pretty much completely intended. So it's different. It kind of a throwback to how the room used to be played. So yeah, we're gonna pick up this lobster, throw it into the pot, and I've already preemptively broken the things used to free the pony over here in the downtime. And then we can build that and start heading over to the left pony to get ready for that. And I'm also gonna be harvesting a lot of materials because these next couple levels are really important to get a good amount of materials because it's very easy to lose time. So if you can preemptively get them in the downtime, it's very useful.
Yeah, specifically gold is the big one for the hub movement after this. Hamster wants to make sure he gets to, I believe, 20 gold?
Yes, 20 gold. Which you
Before
can... Yeah, this level is very nice because it has a lot of gold in it. Otherwise, you have to do some annoying stuff in the hub to get gold.
Yeah. We also want to make sure we have more than enough wood.
Yes.
I think more than enough stone as well is the other big one you can get from here.
Yeah, wood, rope, and stone are the important ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of wood here while I'm gonna break these real quick. Yeah, so get me some wood.
And of course with LEGO game RNG, the pieces seem to have a habit of going as far away from you as physically possible.
So yeah, here's another cool use of the P2 early movement. And this is another room where P2 is just able to move a lot faster than the other one, so you can kind of move over there and preemptively break these blocks to build the flying chicken thing that is going to knock the troll out. So that's some classic LEGO game humor right there. This room is another one where it's very heavily scripted. You know what's going to happen every time.
Yeah, this section is scripted even to the point where pressing the buttons, like what buttons you have to press on this second control are completely known. You don't need most of the fights in this game. Those button presses are normally RNG, but that one is completely scripted. The last troll is a bit cycle based, so Hamster has the time to go and get some resources as well, which is always useful.
Yeah, so unfortunately I'm pretty low on stone, but the other materials I seem to be doing pretty good on.
And now this section, this is fun because this has a movement tech we discovered in our first co-op run of this category, and that is Bomber's rolling state. Bomber, for some reason, despite being probably the least useful member of the party of dwarves, does have this really nice speed tech for this level in particular, where he can just do these insane rolls, and he can cover the entirety of this area basically in one roll, which is so extremely broken.
Yeah, I think Bomber's unique ability, which is shoot. Oh, you can't. I can't use the ability because I'm on keyboard and you can't change the item that you're holding on keyboard, so that's cool. So we didn't really get to show off the bomber roll there, but
Interesting.
I did it once, so yeah. But yeah, Bomber's ability, which is eating things and laying on a picnic blanket so you can bounce on him like a trampoline, it only has like 3 or 4 total uses in the game, and every single one of them can be skipped. There's one that we don't skip that's coming up at this next level because it's not really fast, but yeah, he's almost completely useless. So.
Yeah. But bless him, he gets some time in the limelight there, so he gets something at least.
A lot of the dwarf abilities are either used in almost every single level, like the flail that Dory usually has, or there's also Dwalin's hammer, which is used a little bit less, but still pretty frequently. And then, yeah, you have stuff like the dwarf stack, which we won't actually see, or we will see maybe once in this run, and Bomber's picnic ability, which we will also see once. So yeah, I think they tried to diversify what abilities they gave the dwarves to kind of give each of them a little bit of time, but in the speedrun, we're able to skip certain kinds of tech very often, whereas like the flail hooks were not usually skippable.
Yeah, I mean, credit to them. It's incredibly difficult to come up with however many different abilities for there are parties of dwarves. I think, is it 11 or 12 dwarves?
There are, I think, 12 dwarves. Or no, I think there are 13. Because I think there's 14 in the company, but they don't count Gandalf. I'm not completely sure on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
I think that might be right, yeah. But we can see here Hamster's getting a few more resources, picking up some iron there. And he's going to grab maybe a bit of copper here as well.
Yes. Grabbing a lot of copper here.
Yeah, he's probably a little bit lower on wood than he would like right now.
Yeah, so I'm going to grab 1 or 2 more bushes right before I go in to get some more wood and rope. Because right now I'm building a key to get into this 5th level here, the troll horde. So we're going into the troll's cave that we just turned into stone.
Yeah, so this having to gather resources is quite a normal thing to happen. It's not having to happen that we're having to take the time to gather them because we've made a mistake. Basically, what the game does is it has this brilliant feature where if you have like more than enough of one resource, but maybe not quite as much of another resource, is it will give you only that resource in levels when you break things, even for objects that don't necessarily make sense to have them. Which can be really annoying if you're trying to build up a bank of one resource, for example. So we have to make sure, constantly making sure that we're good on each specific thing, because it's very easy to kind of get out of hand, and it's a slippery slope from there.
Yes. So, here, this is a very 1v2c intensive level. It's kind of known for that out of this game. Not a lot of levels in this game still use a lot of 1v2c, but this one, because the out-of-bounds triggers are inaccessible, you have to do a lot of 1v2c to complete these rooms.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because we came up with a really solid co-op route for this a couple days ago. But unfortunately not able to show it off this time round. I'm sure there'll be another time we can show this off.
Nope. Alright, so yeah, we're going to leave Dory on this hook, and we're going to let Thorin jump up here. Meanwhile, trying to multitask, breaking the slingshot target.
Yeah. So what Hamster's going to do is he's going to try and overlap opening the chest to reveal Bilbo's sword along with the chest to reveal Thorin's sword, and doing those both at the same time will overlap the cutscenes and save a good few seconds actually, because it's quite a long animation, and thankfully it's incredibly lenient to be able to do this. I think you almost have like a second of leniency for it.
Yeah, I think it's even more than that. But okay, so yeah, I'm gonna be struggling through this room here. If you notice, my 1P2C seems a little disjointed or something like that. It's because I'm playing on keyboard right now because my other controller isn't really working. So I'm kind of struggling through it. It's not that bad because I have played a little bit of this game on keyboard before, but usually I'm a double controller sort of person.
The only correct way to 1P2C. Oh, that's going to be controversial.
Alright. And now I'm gonna be kind of working my way through this room, freeing 5 of the rabbits. And, yeah, so that we can run away. We're surrounded right now.
Yep, surrounded by these pack of... It's wargs here, not wolves. Or
they're wargs.
Yeah. And you can see sometimes if you're short on resources, the game will respawn certain items which are breakable, and that's really useful for if you are below on a resource that you need to have. The game kind of throws you a bone there. The problem is it does take a decent amount of time per respawn. So only getting 1 respawn on the bushes there is not too bad.
Yeah.
Definitely
Usually,
a lot better.
yeah, usually you want to go through the hub and sort of, you want to get it so that you only have to break the bushes, or the things that are respawnable in the levels once, because if you can kind of do that, then you're saving all the time that it would take for them to respawn normally. So,
yeah.
That's the goal. It doesn't always work out that way, especially when it's a lot easier to do so in co-op than one player, but because I kind of messed up this route a little bit, we're going to be just waiting for this last rabbit to heal so I can grab some more resources, which isn't the end of the world.
Now you got to say you timed it perfectly just to get more resources, that's all.
Yeah, okay, so that's the second room down. And now, we have a bit of an interesting room here. I'm going to be going through an auto-scroller on one player, and on the other, I'm going to be sequence breaking the second part of the level. So usually in a lot of other games around this time, you have sort of levels that are split into 2 parts, and they're like depend on each other to get finished, and that's not super common in this game. But this is like the only section in this game that actually is like that. So it's kind of cool to see that. But we are able to skip through it.
Yeah, that kind of mechanic is a lot more common in Lord of the Rings, and I think every single one in Lord of the Rings is skippable. So, or pretty much every single one. There might be 1 left, so... In this game there's only this one, but it's quite a quick one, and Hamster was doing some pretty nice parkour to be able to get over to this final area with player 1.
I'm not mashing very well or something. Okay, there we go. That's the end. And now that we're over here, it's going to activate a little cutscene, and a very simple little way to end the level here. You just shoot this orb twice, or 3 times, I mean. Sometimes the wargs jump in front of you and make it so you have to shoot them again, which is an annoying time loss, but... Alright, that's the 5th level down.
Very nice. Yeah, unfortunately you have to manually target everyone. You can't, or manually target every hit. You can't just keep spamming the attack button and eventually the shots will go up. It's a little bit unfortunate, but...
There is a skip in with VSync off in those categories. Oops, I fell. There is a category where or a skip where you can launch up there, so you don't have to manually target him. You can just smack him with your sword, and that makes the section a decent bit faster, and it doesn't lose any time to do that either, because you're bottlenecked by the auto-scroller. But That is not really, well, it is possible in this category, but it's very inconsistent and not really worth it.
Alright, so we've just got this section of making our way through Rivendell. There's not much to add to this section really, other than that hamster is, of course, using player 2 to gather as many resources as possible. Very low on wood at the moment, actually.
Yeah,
3 is not looking good.
a lot lower than I thought. I want to try to be at like 12 here, and then I'll just have to get some on the level, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, this next level that we're just going to doesn't have any required builds. But unfortunately, it's all taking place on a mountain, so there's no trees and therefore no wood. So we're making sure basically what we're gathering now is for 2 levels time, where there's a good few builds that we need to get through there. There's 2, I think, right at the very start.
Movement is not really feeling it today. Alright, we got 15 wood, which is good, and then there is another bush down here that I can grab while I move to the trigger for this level, or the trigger to activate this level.
The good thing is with 44 ropes, that is, the 46 even, that's not going to be a problem at all for the rest of this run.
Yes.
But
It's sort
that
of...
RNG...
Or yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, it's sort of RNG if the bushes give you wood or rope, so sometimes you can end up really lopsided, or sometimes you can end up really balanced. And this run I got pretty lopsided with rope, which is not what you want, because rope is a lot less useful than wood. But,
Typical marathon RNG.
yeah, not a huge deal. So here we're seeing the hover tech used again. I hovered around this barrier, and this sequence breaking this level like this, usually you have to kind of co-op. You have some people on the bottom and some people on the top, and you swap back and forth to complete puzzles to get rid of barriers for each other. But with hovering in this category, you can skip the only 2 things in your way, or the 2 important things in your way, and yeah, just head towards the end. And this saves a ridiculous amount of time. It's like 4 minutes in total, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool time save.
Yeah, that section is my favorite section in co-op because I can literally do nothing. There's no pressure on anything really for me there, as long as I don't accidentally activate a cutscene. I think we're good on the bottom section there.
So yeah, now we're climbing up a stone giant. You don't really see it because we're in the oh, we skipped it in a cutscene, but we are climbing up a mountain right now. And I'm struggling to do it. It's really awkward on keyboard, actually. But, oh, and Dwalin is all the way at the bottom, which is not what you like to see, because he is required up here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the 2 characters you want up here are Dory, who Hamster has on player 1, and Dwalin, who the AI very helpfully decided did not actually want to move anywhere.
Yeah, so we do have a cool sequence break coming up here. Usually when you break this axe plate... Oh, I guess you can't do that. Usually when you break this axe plate, there's a camera pan that plays right in front of where the axe plate was. But if you can jump around the camera pan trigger, and you can actually do all of this next little part with Dory, because of this cool little glitch like that. You can fly using the flail hook and jump up all the way through this section.
And getting that first try as well, that is actually really impressive, because that's not an easy trick to get.
Yeah.
At all.
Takes some weird positioning and some mashing to do, but now we are up on the almost the top level. Here we go.
And so Hamster's going to be getting a buddy up here, mostly to just carry one of the AI characters along with him. The buddy up does break right at the end of this section, but we do need 2 characters to finish the section because we have a buddy up axe plate. And that's an axe plate that can only be hit by 2 characters working together to be able to break it in the buddy up state. That doesn't work if it's just one player, no matter if that character is a strong character or anything. It does work if 2 hobbits are buddied up though. Interestingly, even though they can't break normal axe plates, they can break buddy up plates.
Yeah. I guess the power of the teamwork is enough to break stone. So yeah, this is another level that is actually very long casually that is just completely broken with the cool tech that's pretty much exclusive to this game, which is hovering. There are similar things in it, like the Yoda flying in LSW1, it's kind of similar. But yeah, you don't see anything really like that in the more recent games. So now we have Goblin Town. This is the longest level in the game, and it has a lot of cool skips in it.
Yeah, this level, I don't know how they balance the levels in this game, but this one specifically, even when I first started speedrunning this, and it was like almost double the length of most other levels. I think getting a 22-minute time or something was a good time for this level. Thankfully, with no cut and with just Hamster being so much better, there's a lot more skips that will happen, and it will not take 22 minutes to complete this one.
Yeah, I believe the IL now it does have VSync. The IL does have VSync off capabilities, so you're able to launch or do some launches that you can't do with VSync on. The IL is like under 8 minutes, I think. We will not quite get there. We'll probably beat the level in about 13 or 12 minutes, but still a lot faster than the 22. I think it was CG was around 22 minutes when I first started.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing a little skip here. You usually have to build 3 things to jump on, but it's actually very convenient because you can just only build the middle one and jump all the way to the top. And now we have a very frustrating build coming up here.
Yes.
Usually you skip this, it's very easy to skip, but we have to play this normally because there is a not very high invisible wall that you just can't quite get over with lowered VSync capacity, so lowered FPS capacity. So it is a build that you don't usually see, so I guess it is something cool, I guess.
Thankfully, we got really good RNG for this. Actually, all the way back in the first level, we got some optional mining things, which happened to be the iron that we needed. So we managed to pick up a ton of iron there, and that meant we were more than good enough to be able to complete this build. Normally, I think every other time we've done this, we've had to wait for one respawnable block to get the iron, but we actually got very good RNG there.
Alright, this is a very big skip in the game's history. It was very notorious for a long time, because it was a 2-try skip, and it saved like a minute. But now, it doesn't really seem like I did much, but just jumping on the chair up to that top level, but it actually skips 2 riddles that you need to complete. Yeah, so the riddles take a long time, but I was able to sequence break it. Ooh, that's not good. A little low on wood. By a lot, we were very short on wood. There we go. Need 1 more, I think. Maybe. Nope. But yeah, we're able to skip straight to this last level by getting, or the last riddle by getting up there early with the attack that's called a super jump, and it basically just involves you spamming jump against some certain really steep slopes with some properties, and if you move at just the right time after jumping, then you are able to slide up the slope. So, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that's another one of. Well, this gives Bilbo the ring of power, or the invisibility ring, as it was known about in The Hobbit, which is a very useful thing to have. It's actually not used that much in any percent at or NLE even. I think it's just one section that it's used for, which is quite halfway through what's effectively film 2. But yeah,
yeah, I think there's like one actual required use of the ring, and then but I think we use it 2 or 3 times in NLE. So yeah, just killing some orcs here. I'm not doing it super well, but that's the first part of this boss fight. Now we are going to turn into Gandalf, get the Goblin King's attention, and cool little skip here. If you wait to kill these orcs just a little bit, like this, I'm doing it kind of badly now, but you can kind of skip a phase of the boss fight. Because usually he'd send more out to you, because he thought you would have killed them all by now.
Yeah, this is definitely the slower paced section of the run. Thankfully, it does pick up. After this boss fight, we're going to have a decently long platforming section.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's like one of the best parts of the NLE categories. It's just non-stop skips and like just cool platforming and a really cool like we'll see this thing called Goblin Town skip where you deload the whole second half of the section. So I get to walk on some invisible unloaded stuff by doing just a simple little sequence break. So yeah, but there are a lot of other small little optimizations too that have slowly been added in over a long period of time. So yeah, there's the orcs down. And we're gonna do this last phase of this first fight by hitting this box against his head, hitting him, and then we are on to escaping the goblin tunnels is the name of the part of the level.
Yeah, so this is all non-stop skips. Tough 1P2C on this very first part.
Yeah, it is rough because usually I have the other controller there, but I'm figuring it out.
It's not too bad for an unfamiliar 1P2C strategy.
Yeah, the only levels that I've ever played in this game on keyboard are the first one and the last 4, because that's the levels that you use in restricted any percent. But most of the same ideas translate, so not that bad. I have played other games on keyboard, so it's a little awkward at some points, but it's not the end of the world. So yeah, here we see another use of the hover tech. I'm going to skip, usually what you have to do here is a slingshot puzzle, and this saves actually not really that much time, but it does save time, so I'm going to go for it as it's very easy. And then we have another hover that saves around 2 seconds here. You usually have a very long camera pan that gets activated if you complete this part of the section, and it means you have to bring lots of characters over, and so swapping to other characters kind of just adds unnecessary potential time loss to the table. So we're going to eliminate that by saving a little time and just making it all more consistent.
Yeah, hovers are so broken in this game. It's actually amazing the amount of skips you can do. The one problem with it is it's quite a slow tech. That's the only reason why it's not used completely all over the place, but it's still used over the place in a very large amount of places.
There are a lot of places where you could skip something with hovers if it was like twice the speed, but it just isn't, so
yeah.
There are a lot of gaps that you could potentially cross. So I'm going to try to get the first cycle onto the bridge here, which I did.
Very nice.
Oh, that really sucks. I missed jumping around the bridge, but not a huge deal. It's because I waited too long, so it killed my momentum. But
Yeah, so jumping around the bridge effectively skips while bringing all your characters over, and I think a small camera pan plays after you lower that bridge.
Yes, it does.
Down. And Hamster's going to go for another pickup launch here. Another one that is famously consistent. Definitely consistent is the word to use there.
Yeah, so here I'm walking out of bounds on this rock. The skip, usually this next section needs to be ended by a door that you can kind of see in the background, and it'll teleport me up to this level. But what I can do here is get a buddy up launch here, because I took the out of bounds on the rock, fly up here, and since I didn't hit the trigger, you can deload this whole second half of the level.
Yeah, so this entire last room has not been loaded in yet, just because we skipped that one trigger. Thankfully, Hamster can tell a landing spot from the studs, and then has just played the game enough to be able to remember where exactly to drop down onto the very final room, or very final section of this room, and into the end trigger for the room.
Yeah, so you have to walk on this pretty thin platform. Luckily, there's a wall to like kind of run against on one side, but there are some visual cues, and just experience lets me know where I go. And it kind of looked like I just walked into absolutely nowhere there, but that is where the trigger for the level usually is. But yeah, skipping it unloads all of the actors. It doesn't deload the walls or anything like that, but it unloads all of the things that usually are in your way there, which just happen to be Lego bricks, and that gets unloaded when you skip the trigger. So it's a very cool skip. It's one of the older ones, but it's very cool, and the method that I used there to do it is a lot newer.
Yep, so we got another boss fight here. This boss fight is very easy to gain additional cycles on this fight here. Basically, you've got to make sure you deal with the enemies quickly, and there's a specific point where the Goblin Town's kind of hitbox extends quite a large amount when he's doing the laughing animation, and you've got to make sure that you do not run into the Goblin at that time, because if you do that, then the entire cycle resets itself. Hamster could also, if he wanted to, take some deaths in this section as well to try and get down to 0 studs for the level, but I think with 31k on player 2, that's a lot of deaths that need to be taken.
Yeah, it's not really possible in the restricted categories because you have to do the extra build. Like, we built the catapult in the very first room of the level, and doing that gives you 20,000 studs, which means 10 more deaths on each player, or 20 deaths on one player. So, yeah, it makes it in any percent, or not any percent, in NLE or all mini kits in a category where you play this level with VSync off, it's a lot easier to skip that build, and it's a lot more manageable to kill your players at strategic points, but I didn't even bother. So yeah, now we just wait on this final little auto-scroller thing. We're falling down to the base of the mountain, and we're gonna walk out through a door, and it's gonna put us into the forest. But we're not out of danger yet. The next level is called Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fire. The name can be taken very literally.
This next level is fun. I like this next level.
Yeah, this next level used to be a lot different than it is now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's an out-of-bounds trigger in the second room of the level, which makes it very easily skippable, and you can save like a minute and a half with it. So it routed out a very difficult sort of 1P2C section. So we kind of start out with this auto-scroller here, and just kind of walk through, and then we're going to get into the second room where I'm going to move into an out-of-bounds trigger kind of blindly and just hope I hit it with the setup that I have. And we go into the third room, which is like a boss fight, which is a little bit kind of like an auto-scroller. But it's It's definitely one of the cooler looking boss fights in my opinion. It's kind of a fun one.
It certainly is, and it's another option to go for 0 studs as well.
Yes.
Hamster has to make sure he avoids most of the studs in this auto-scroller. There's a couple of purple studs or 10k studs hiding, but he's managed to avoid all of them. And of course, we're not going to pick up any studs pretty much from this room because we are going for the trigger.
Yeah, so here I'm doing a little bit of a setup, and I'm just going to hover down into this area, and this is where the trigger is. And I just hit it right there. Perfect. That's exactly what you want to see.
Very nice.
So yeah, you can see the stud counts are very low so far. And it's actually very convenient because there is fire that we can run into and this ledge that we can fall off of to lose studs.
Yeah, it's very easy to lose studs in this section, as there's also a decent amount of downtime in certain parts of the boss fight as well.
Yes, like right now is a good time that I can take deaths. There's also a 30-second spot where you're supposed to just kill a bunch of orcs, but you can just ignore them and take deaths off the edge instead. Because it doesn't have any effect on the progression of the boss fight at all. So here I'm just collecting all of the free studs on the ground so that I don't have to worry about picking them up later, because the second phase of the fight kind of occurs over on the very back side of the screen, and because there are studs sitting over there, I'll just pick them up now so I don't have to worry about grabbing it later and kind of ensure my 0 studs. But yeah, so this is the part of the fight where we just kind of wait for him to do his thing. He'll throw down 3 rocks, and once he throws down the 3rd, he'll hop down here with us. I think this is the 2nd. Yeah.
Yeah, what you might also notice now is that Hamster is pretty stacked on resources. Now, I think I saw 46 wood or something coming through, which is a lot more given the struggles we were having earlier. For some reason, the auto-scroller just gives an absolute ton of the wood resource and some of the other ones as well. Like rope, I think stone went up a lot as well.
Yeah.
And also for the second half of, basically the second half of the game, they either have build platforms that we skip, but I think anyway there's a lot less of them than there were before.
Yes, there are a lot fewer, and they also require a lot less resources. There is one build left that we actually do, and that's in barrels out of bonds. And the other ones are either, well, one of them requires very few resources and is skipped anyways, and the other one is very, again, also very easily skippable. So.
There's a fun little thing that Hamster can show off here. If he kills one of the riders with player 2 and then jumps on top of that particular wall, he will actually stay floating in the air for a few seconds sometimes.
There we go.
And yeah, there we go. The reason for that is basically during an animation, the character, once again, just like the hovers, they don't check for a collision during the animation. They only check for ground collision after the animation is complete, which means if the warg runs away in that time, you're just kind of left floating in the air. Just kind of a cool little thing. Obviously, it doesn't make any difference to the speedrun at all, but it's a fun little thing.
Yeah, so that is the first movie done. Yeah, so pretty interesting movie. That movie is a lot heavier in the 1P2C, I'd say, and it's a lot less skip-filled and a little bit slower paced. Now we kind of get into some levels where there's a lot of interesting skips. It's pretty dense, and it's a lot more difficult, in my opinion.
Yes, for everyone checking the time right now, don't worry, we are not halfway through the run. We are over halfway through the run.
Yes. There are some very short levels coming up. A lot of the shortest ones, actually.
There's a lot shorter levels coming up, so...
Yeah,
we start off here with another auto-scroller. Woohoo!
I will actually be right back, and I'll be here before the end of the auto-scroller.
Oh great, so I'm left to entertain everyone, haha, well... Oh no, that's put me on the spot, that's actually kind of worrying. So, we start the second film. The way Hobbit works is there is 8 levels per film, and there is only 2 films, even though obviously Hobbit is a 3-film trilogy. there's only 2 films because the third film was meant to be made as a DLC, but unfortunately that DLC got cancelled during production. And if anyone has seen the Battle of the Five Armies as a film, it is very difficult to put that in any form of meaningful LEGO game. So I'm not surprised it was cancelled, but it does mean that our game will end on a bit of a cliffhanger. It will end at the very end of film 2, at the end of the Desolation of Smaug, which is a bit of a weird point to end it off, but unfortunately that is the way it has to go. There was no extra level DLCs for this. Is Hamster back now? That's the important question.
Yes, I am.
Perfect timing, look at that.
So, yeah, it is unfortunate that we are missing, you know, a potential 8 levels for the movies, but it's unfortunate that we're missing that content, but the cool thing is that the end of this game is just absolutely fantastic. The last 4 levels are by far, like, some of the best levels in the game. And
Absolutely.
They, like, the last level especially is just the perfect level to end the game on. I don't think there's a better one. I don't think it's even close.
There's one annoying thing about it that I can think of, but other than that, it's such a good ending for both the game and when you're looking at speedrun wise, it's a good ending for pretty much any percent category, so any percent and restricted any percent. It works really well. In restricted any percent, we play all of the last, or most of the last 4 levels. We play technically 3 1/4 of them. But both categories, it's a very nice way of doing it, and they are some of the most fun levels. They're also the most hunted levels because they're either useful in any percent or they're useful in restricted any percent. So it's a very nice ending to the run.
So yeah, here you can see there is another picnic blanket thing with Bomber that you're supposed to skip here. I started building it there, but you can easily do it. There's a simple little jump you can do off of some pixels on that wall, and you can jump up there, build a ladder early, and just walk into the door. And that's the end of the level.
Yep.
Now, the interesting thing is the transition is active behind that door, and you can get behind there, so you could theoretically skip that whole room. However, the issue is it's only possible with miniature characters at the moment, so you need a way to unload the door to get through there in story. But with the miniature characters extra, you can get behind there and replay story and free play and save about 5 seconds by doing that. You can also, or I guess there's a Golem clip that you can do to get back there, so it saves even more than 5 or 6 seconds now, but it's very cool that that level is, or that door is active. It's a change of pace for the other categories.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
this is a really cool skip. I kind of found this half an hour before we started, but you can do a buddy drop here, kind of like the one that we saw in the Azog level, to get him up here early, and it actually allows us to do a completely different route than what we did in any of the other runs that we did here, and any other run that you'd see on the board. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a horizontal buddy up like this, jump on this branch, and I'm going to start hovering. And ordinarily this room is extremely long. You have to do a lot of puzzle stuff, and we only really had a skip for the second half of this room, which is hovering. But if you start hovering right now, which I just found, that branch gives you just enough height to start hovering. You can actually skip the section on 60 FPS, which is extremely cool. Saves a lot more time than you would think, because usually you have to do a whole side quest with a torch and bring all of your buddies over. But now we can drop over here and fall and die, which is great.
That was definitely intended.
Yeah.
Thankfully, with the horizontal buddy up, both players get the respawn.
Yes.
If that was with their vertical buddy up, that would have been really bad, actually, because only one player would get the respawn out of 2 of them there. Yeah, we're just going to hover over to the end here. This is, again, why hovers are so broken. There's a whole quest and thing. You've got to go on here, and you've got to have Gandalf, or not Gandalf, over. I think you've got to have Ori over, and maybe 1 or 2 of the other hobbits. You've got to use Bilbo's invisibility ring again to be able to build something.
Yeah,
But
throughout this whole part of the level, you have to juggle like 5 different characters, and they all use their abilities at different parts of the level. But with hovering, you can just completely ignore it because you don't need to use any of their abilities aside from the hammer at the very start to just clear that sort of doorway.
yep.
And yeah, it allows for, I think that probably saves a minute 20 over playing just like a casual 1v2c of that room. Oh, I don't need to buddy up here. I don't know why I did that.
So this is one use of Frodo's invisibility ring here. He's going to be able to get through, or sneak up to the spiders and be able to kill them, which the spiders block our path, so that's very useful. This section is basically just fast casual 1p2c. There isn't any real skips here, unless by some miracle, one skip that used to work for us, but I don't think has worked for either of us in ages, actually somehow worked. And that is to be able to get into one of the crawl hatches a little bit earlier. Hamster having a bit of difficulty putting the ring on at the moment.
Yeah, if the ring mechanic in the inventory is very weird. Sometimes when you select it, it'll actually put it away for reasons unknown.
Lego game.
But yeah, usually, so this is actually skippable sometimes, because the spiders aren't actually tied to the progression at the level. The thing that actually ends the level is hitting this spider web, locking down the very last dwarf. You can actually skip all the other ones, but it's just fastest to save them all and kind of play through the room, because the hovering and launching and all that to just kind of sneak around the spiders is extremely slow. So yeah, we got some more cool 1p2c here if you want to explain what's going on.
Okay, so look on the left side of Hamster's screen, he's going to be doing what's known as a backflip wall climb, which is with an elf. The elf has an ability to backflip, and we're going to be able to use that and exploit the fact that basically you can land on one pixel of collision and immediately chain another backflip off of it. It's quite difficult to get this particular trick, but basically what Hamster's going to try and do, there we go, gets up to the little arrow grabbing thing, and that skips having to build something to be able to get back up, which is quite a nice thing to be able to have skipped.
Yeah, I maybe did not save that much time with it there, but I think I still did save time with it. You have to... It's again another thing where it's not like super difficult or anything, but you do have to juggle a bunch of characters, like swapping them to build a whole thing to get up to that arrow slot. So the backflip allows you to do it with one character, which is where most of the time save comes from.
Yeah, what we also failed to notice, or failed to talk about there, while on the right side of the screen there, Hamster did a completely unintended parkour jump to be able to get up and activate the right side spider earlier as well, which is a very cool thing that we didn't mention. Right now, we are going to be using the campfire, and that is because we need to change the day on the overworld to night. Unfortunately, this is an unskippable camera pan, but it is the only way we can progress in this category into Theoden's kingdom. No, Thranduil's kingdom.
Yeah. So, usually what would happen here if you were just playing this game casually is you'd walk over, you wouldn't activate that campfire because you wouldn't know about it. You'd come over here, activate a cutscene. Well, it's not really a cutscene, but it's like a camera pan. Have them tell you that, oh, they can't let you in, but they're feeling so tired. And then when you change the time to night, you come back and they're falling asleep. But because we know that's going to happen, we just activate the thing early and end up skipping some movement and the cutscene.
Yep.
Yeah, very, I guess just a little bit of clever routing, I guess.
Yeah. Also, you may have noticed there that on the overworld we now have horses, which is something that's given to you after completing Film 1, so it's a Film 2 exclusive thing. They are very useful for just, in this category, just cutting down time on the overworld. In your any percent categories, restricted any percent, whatever, well, in any percent specifically, they do a lot more than that because they have the ability to go through some walls on the overworld. But in this category, we only need them for the ability to just move a bit faster on the overworld. But it's a decent kind of time save in pretty much all of the overworld movements as well.
Alright, so yeah, we're gonna build this whole armory stand, and we don't really need it, we just need this bow right here. It's a little overkill if you ask me. But we come over here, grab this bow to shoot down the final barrel. And if you route this room right, I didn't quite do it perfectly, but I did it pretty close to perfectly. You can kind of just overlap everything. And then we just wait this little bit at the end. And now we move on to this room.
This room, there is usually, I think if you have about 75 FPS, there is a launch you can do from the bush just behind the save statue. Unfortunately, we do not have 75 FPS, we are restricting ourselves to 60 FPS. And that means instead we have to do this hover instead to be able to back up. Well, what this does is this skips an entire section of scripted boss fights and all sorts of stuff that I haven't played since my casual playthrough of this game, and it's very nice to be able to go around it all.
Yeah, so that target that I just landed on, usually the purpose of the room is you have to kill a bunch of golden orcs, which is just like a mini boss fight, really. And then if you kill enough of them, then you'll get a bow, because they all had their weapons away, so you'll get his bow back. And then you can use that bow to shoot that target, which will get rid of the elves guarding the way to the end. And then you kill another golden orc, and then you can pull the lever. But with hovering, you can skip all that. Pretty decent skip. Saves a good amount of time.
Yeah, I was going to say, even though it's not that much in terms of a skip distance-wise, it's definitely a lot in terms of time. I think it's like 3-4 minutes or something, in all honesty, because I think Bolg appears there as well, one of the greater orcs.
Yeah, it is a very small room, but there's a lot of content that they intend for you to interact with.
Oh yeah, and then this room, there is a possibility of crashing at the very end of this room, and now that I've mentioned that, it probably will happen.
Yeah.
But hopefully, if all goes well, because we're on 60 FPS, we should be fine. We just got to finish off the orcs here, and then there is a scripted section with Bomber. You might remember this section from the movie.
Yeah, it's a pretty iconic scene. It's probably one of the only memorable things from the movies, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, that section, it kind of looked like an auto-scroller, but there actually is a decent bit of strategy as to when you swap your characters and what side of the river you have them on, because it will get the orcs to spawn sooner or later, and so I got them in a area that like keeps it to where they consistently spawn the same way, like pretty much every time, and it's pretty fast as well. There is like a faster cycle you can get, but it was more than good enough. If you played that room like normally, then you actually would get like a much worse cycle than what I got.
Yeah, definitely. And then this level finishes off with a very annoying section, I'd say, but you just have to kill 20 of these orcs with Legolas and Tarion. There's not much skill to this other than just spamming the X button, or whatever it is on keyboard.
Yeah, I did accidentally miss an orc somehow. I was trying to be extra optimal, and I ended up missing an orc. But,
Not going for the mini kit?
yeah, I tried to, and I jumped off of the head of the one that always hits it. That mini kit is actually casual player's worst nightmare, but...
Oh, I don't like the second one in here where you have to get the 5 beehives either.
Yeah, both of them are bad, because if you go around, that part is a loop, but if you go around it more than once, then usually the room will just stop lock and you can't do anything. So you have to replay the entire level, which is a very long level casually. So here we are, a warm welcome. This is a very different level from all of the other levels in the game. It's another one where there's a lot of 1P2C. So it has a very different skips in routing. It's very similar to the Troll Horde level, I'd say, because there's not any big skips, but there's a lot of little things that you can do to sort of change or to speed up the whole area. So it's a very interesting level. I used to not like it because it was very soft lock prone, but there's a lot of cool skips that have been slowly getting implemented into it, and it's now a very fun level in this category.
Yeah, Hamster's starting off with a bit of optimization here. So you've got to, normally if you're playing this just one player, that was an interesting thing that happened.
Yeah, I do not know why that happened. There
You've got to go to the gate once and then get all the fish in the boat using some very accurate shoveling techniques, which definitely make sure that the fish go in the boat. And then once you've done that, you're meant to drive, or sail the boat or whatever all the way back. But instead you can just position Bilbo as player 2 right by the gate, and that counts as hitting the trigger to be able to start the level. Very nice little time save just there. And now we get into a warm welcome.
After we have what may potentially be like a 15-second load, which can just happen sometimes because my files are extracted right now. But let's see if I can get this little mini skip here. Doesn't look like it. You can, if you hit that box at just the right time, you can jump into that door, but I guess we're doing this little puzzle here.
It's fine, it's a very short room anyway.
Yeah.
Hamster will be going for a launch in the next room though. That launch is one of the older bits of tech we have in the run, because it's technically only been implemented into this category about 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But he's going to be coming over here with, he wants to, Dory and Ori here, and they're going to do a pickup launch over this chair. And this one was consistent. There we go. And then a bit of 1P2C up here. This section is very 1P2C heavy because you have to collect all 5 of the items, all 5 of the weapons that you need. But thankfully, you are able to overlap some of the item collections as well, so you don't have to watch all 5 camera pans. Hopefully, if it all goes well, Hamster will watch 3 of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dwalin's getting the first one at the bottom. Hamster's already unlocked 2 at the top, and I think he's just going to get this one now. Dwalin, meanwhile, is still turning the crank on the bottom, which is a very useful little time save to have.
Yeah, so here I'm going to do this, push this turnstile while I wait for this thing to be accessible. That's going to leave that open for me, and then I'm going to overlap these 2. And overlapping those is actually quite tight. It's, I think, 2 or 3 frames that you have.
It's definitely not easy in co-op. So.
Yeah.
But then, as Hamster has the bow with Dory right now, I believe.
Yes.
He's going to be able to go over to the left with Dory and go over to the right with Ori. And then open these doors pretty much simultaneously and collect the final 2 items for this run.
And then, yeah, so this room is done now, and we go into another room. This room had a lot of, like, I'd actually say some of the most difficult 1P2C in the game. But now, that is no more, because we have a very cool skip, courtesy of the Jack Juggler and Nice Fighter, I think. So there is an out-of-bounds trigger that we were actually able to hit in this category. You can't really hit too many of them in this category, but oops, I did that wrong. But if you do a pickup launch right here, it gives you the perfect height to fall into an out-of-bounds trigger that skips harassing a pig. Because that's pretty much what that section is. You have to get some herbs to heal Keely's poisoned wound that the pig happens to have.
Yeah, that setup is actually ridiculously consistent to get. It's so incredible how well that works, specifically on 60 FPS. I don't think there's any other FPS value really that gives you like that perfect amount of height and distance and whatever to be able to hit that trigger.
Yeah, I've messed with it on 75 FPS, and you get way too much height. So it's just absolute perfection, the way that it works. So glad that it got found, because that room is a little frustrating sometimes, too. So, yeah, it's just a very cool find. Very cool. And you usually die right there, and I didn't take a death, so that's a very good heart count, so I'm happy with that. Let's see, where is my other person? Oh, they may be stuck, which is not good.
That is worrying.
There we go. I think she will now warp over to me.
Hopefully, because you need 2 characters over here for the next camera pan, right?
Yes, you need 2 characters to get the bow over. So she is still stuck, which I really hope does not continue. Yeah, it's fine. I will get her over these arrows manually. About 1 in 4 or 5 times she gets stuck there. But she should warp. I wish they made this camera pan just have it so that she warps to a set point every time, so you don't have to worry about that, but they did. The developers did not do that. She did warp anyways, though, because I got her unstuck, which is very cool. Usually I 1v2 see this, but I'm already dropped out, so I might as well just not.
And then, yeah, one final boss area here before we finish off the level. I think this used to be the 2nd longest level.
Yes, this and Goblin Town are the longest levels by quite a bit.
Yeah. This one is still considerably shorter than Goblin Town.
Yes, especially with the new development, with the trigger in the 2nd room. In other categories, you can hit the trigger for this room, which happens to be like almost directly above my head right now, but not really accessible with 60 FPS. And if you hit both of those, you can actually beat the level in under 5 minutes, very easily. So yeah, there is a trigger in the 1st room as well. This level has potential to be around under 3 minutes, I think, if we had a good way to hit the trigger in the 1st room, but it's not really a thing.
And now we're in the last 4 levels. This first level, it's just a crazy way of hitting the start level door that you can just jump into the river, and yep, that starts the level if you jump far enough.
And then this level is just a fantastic. I think it's pretty much agreed that this is like one of the best that the game has to offer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just super cool parkour, super cool skips, super cool scenery. Just I don't think there's anybody that doesn't really like this level. So here we're gonna see hopefully a jump. It's a difficult one that I am not very good at, but I'm trying to jump onto this unreleased stair edge like that. And that allows you to skip a little puzzle to let the stairs go out. It's like a puzzle in a camera fan, I think. But because you only need Radagast for this part of the level, you are able to just finish this part up top here. You have to heal this bird who's gonna drop some pieces of wood to make a plank. And then you can head into really the iconic part of this level, which is just traveling through the tombs. I guess there aren't really many... Oops, that was nice. There aren't really many skips in this category, but it's... or in this next room at least, there is a big one at the very end.
Yeah.
But it's very cool 1p2c, and just all that. head through this cool, like, top-down maze section. Yeah, I think this level is kind of the embodiment of what this game could have been if they had, like, more time and put more effort into it.
Yeah,
Just a lot more interesting and creative puzzles and that sort of thing. But I'm glad we got at least one level like this.
Yeah, I think this level feels very much like the level they used in showcases and stuff of the game. Because it's very well made. That you can see that they kind of took the time and effort, not just for the puzzles, whatever, but also for the scenery as well.
Yeah.
There's some custom sound effects in there as well.
There
just
aren't any like ridiculous soft locks. Like almost every other level has some like very easy to soft lock sections, and this one, I guess there is one that you discovered the other day, but
Yep, that's frame perfect though, so hopefully you don't get it.
yeah.
It's in this room actually. It turns out if you hit 2 of these, whatever they're called, like spell slots or whatever, I don't know what they'd be called. If you hit 2 of them on the exact same frame, then that soft locks completely and nothing progresses. It means that any things you have left to target are still targetable, but you can't actually hit them properly and they don't register the hit, which does soft lock. Hamster takes it very safe there, which is a very sensible idea.
Yeah. And actually, it doesn't really look like it, but 1v2C'ing that section saves a very large amount of time that you wouldn't even really realize, but moving, being able to, like, kind of target both of them at the same time, and also, like, not have to move your cursor all over the screen, which is, like, really slow. You can just kind of, you can 1v2C it, and it just saves a lot of time. I think it's, like, 7 or 8 at the minimum.
Something like that. It's a surprising amount just based on animations.
But yeah, in some other categories, this room is a lot shorter, actually. There's a pause roll that you can do, and if you have access to miniature characters, you can actually skip that whole target the blue items. You can skip that whole thing. But not really an option here. So we get to play through this cool part of the level. And then this is a very iconic skip.
Yep.
Usually you have to crawl around this cliff face very slow. You're forced into some locked-in movement, which you can see right there because I'm missing it. But if you jump just right down, which that is not going to work, I will
think
just do
you
it
might
one
need to
player.
drop out. Yeah.
Like
This
that,
is a
that will work.
Yeah. This is a very precise skip to be able to die down on this lower level, and then you're able to just completely skip the section effectively. But now, those of you who have seen restricted any percent, we are perfectly joined up with restricted any percent now. So from here on out, we do the restricted any percent route.
Yeah.
And
very fun levels. It just
Yeah.
gets better and better from here.
yes, this is definitely my favorite. I always got excited when I got to the last 4 levels of the run. Always good times. But you're going to see Hamster making use of horses here to start. And these horses, obviously, faster movement speed to be able to get to the trigger. Not too much beyond that for this one. And this level is the Necromancer.
Used to be a very boring level, I would say, but it now has one of the most unique and just coolest skips in most LEGO games, I'd say. There aren't like a lot of skips like it that you usually see. So if you want to explain what Birdless is,
okay, yes.
Over there.
So in the next room, Hamster will be going for a trick known as Birdless. And Birdless is effectively a way of getting a launch. It was discovered by Loz, I believe. And Loz basically found that there is a specific piece of collision where if you are in a freefall state, you've done your jump dive, but you aren't in contact with the floor, and you're in a spot where you can build up, or effectively stay in the same place, so the freefall state just keeps happening. You can build up downwards vertical speed. And by building up that downwards vertical speed for a set amount of time, in this case 13 seconds, and then breaking Gandalf out of this freefall state, he also has to be off camera as well to be able to build this up. But after these 13 seconds, Hamster will break Gandalf out of the freefall state, and Gandalf will fall downwards and then almost reflect off the ground like a mirror, and will fly up, and that gives us enough height to be able to go over the trigger and hit the trigger for the room. Very nice find. Such a cool skip.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is that it accidentally happens to another community member, Flaming Laser. Accidentally about 2 months before it was found, I think, but we just didn't really know why it happened, and then Los found that if you keep the other person off screen and you wait long enough, it will happen consistently, which is just super cool, because a lot of launches in this game are inconsistent or have a lot of variables, but that one is just very controllable.
Yeah, that was such a sick find. Now we have another quick boss fight break. In fact, it's a boss fight, then an auto-scroller, then another boss fight. But all that means is, obviously, along with prioritizing boss fight speed here, Hamster will also be making sure that he gets down to 0 studs by the end of this level. It's very easy to do in the last room. He has plenty of time to be able to do this. But he also has to pick up some studs in the next room. So if you find sometimes that he's a bit high on studs here, he can go for a jump off this kind of near side of the map. Instead, he's going for the mini kit, which I respect. I do respect that.
Yeah, you can, there's a lot of lenience for the 0 studs in this level, because there's a lot of, I don't know, I guess it kind of is downtime in this very last room. So yeah, a little auto-scroller here, and then, yeah, we head into the last room, and there's just a ton of time that you can jump off the edge. You can have like 10,000 on both players and still very easily get 0 studs, just because all you have to do is just either kill your other player, let them get killed, or jump off the edge. But yeah, I guess
kind of made.
I was just gonna say we didn't really mention it, but in that second room right there were a couple skips that we did. There was like a little AI manipulation that we used to get him to jump up top, and a jump off of a flower to sort of skip a build to get up to the top level on the left side. But they're so smooth and just like a part of everybody's muscle memory now that it just sort of kind of looks like that's what's intended for you to do there. It's just another cool, like, they're very old skips. They've been known about for a long time, but
You made them look too easy. That's the problem.
yeah, it's just
So if I was playing, I'd fail them both at least 5 times first, and then go for them, and then get them.
But yeah, now that we've broken that first pillar, we can just jump off the edge here over and over again, because it kind of gives us a place to fall into. And every time you die like this, you lose 1,000 studs.
Yeah, one of the annoying things that sometimes can happen with both players falling down there is that sometimes if one player dies before the other, then the other one can pick up studs as they're dying, which is annoying because they don't then get rid of those studs in particular. But even so, like, Hamster right now has to take 2 deaths with player 2. Plenty of time to do that because there's a whole nother phase to be able to wait out as well.
But yeah, it may not seem like it, but in competitive runs, like for restricted 8%, this section is actually very important to stay focused on, because it is very easy to lose or gain like a lot of time, as there's a decent bit of, like, it's not really RNG, but when you block the blue, like, sort of meteor thing, the hand, whatever it is, that like falls on you, the pieces can kind of land anywhere, and you have to be ready to go over there so that you can build them, because you can't build them from anywhere on the map. So you have to be like ready to build them as quickly as possible and activate the statue as quickly as possible. So there is quite a bit of like kind of strategy that you wouldn't really notice unless you were playing the category. But yeah, so I kind of position P2 in a random spot, and I'm kind of just looking for where a big group of the pieces is going to land. Like right there, I happen to get really lucky. It was very easy. And then I'm just going to leave my other character over here and finish up the 0 studs.
Yeah, you can build that one based on proximity to either one big piece or a few smaller pieces. So Hamster there opts to go for a few smaller pieces, and I think those drop more consistently, so that's probably a good idea to go for them. But then he finishes up the level and managed to get the 0 studs as well. Which is...
Can I read a quick donation?
Go for it.
We have $60 from Laser Trap, who says, "Good to see co-op has been running smoothly all day. This brings my total amount donated to $100 and goes towards the bonus Curse of the Black Stripe run, Bearhead's version." Not real, by the way. Thank you, John.
Right. For some reason, my keyboard disconnected there again. I didn't do anything to cause that, so I don't know why it did, but it's been fixed. And we have a cool skip right here called Icicle Launch, which is a buddy-up launch, very tight on 60 FPS, but you can do it if you have like a very good camera and positioning and you're aware of what you're doing. But it saves a lot of time because it may look like I just did this launch and walking to the trigger, but it basically cuts like almost a very circular path that you have to take to get to that level, like completely in half. So.
And now we have one of the harder skips in the game. This is fast OTD, or fast on the doorstep. This is a incredibly precise launch to be able to get. We do have a setup for it now. It took best part of a year and a bit to be able to find a setup actually, but
yeah,
eventually we've got something which kind of resembles a setup. But as you can see from Hamster, it's not 100% consistent. There's a few things Hamster is looking for here. One of them is a fast body up, and then he's got to jump at a very precise time, and also make sure he's holding up at the right time as well to be able to land up here. That was very nicely done, and that skips about 2 minutes of gameplay, I think.
I don't think it's quite 2 minutes, but it is a sizable portion, and it saves a lot of time to the other skip that we had for that section.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I did a bunch of jumps there to skip some puzzling and camera pans. It doesn't really look like it, but I did skip a lot there. Some just silly little jumps. And then we do another launch there with the other character that we brought over. You don't have to do that. You can do this all with Dwellin, but it is end up being a little bit faster to bring both characters over there. And now we're going to do a kind of launch that we haven't really seen yet, which is called a spin launch. And if you get yourself in a tight area, and you spin around, it will launch you upwards. And then that happens in that specific area, it happens to just be completely perfect. So yeah, very nice there. That level cooperated, I guess. It wasn't very good, but it was also not that bad. So
yeah, you may have caught Hamster also got 0 studs there at the very end by moving P1 over to a death spot, which was very, very nicely done. It was probably a little bit tighter in terms of time than he remembered, but yeah, got that really nicely. And believe it or not, we have 1 level left now.
yeah, so that level, very short, very, like, lots of skips. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skips. No, 6 skips packed into a 2-minute split right there. So, just very action-packed. It's a super fun one to play. It's extremely punishing. But, yeah. So here we can see this is just why this last level is such a great level to end on. It is this section is very movement-based, very difficult to do optimally and consistently. So I'll try to kind of show what a very good run would be doing here. But yeah, there's a lot of very little details. There is a skip here called statue skip, but usually I do it on controller. I guess it worked there.
Oh, very nice.
But I had to do it on keyboard. It was a little slow, but I think I still saved time with it. But yeah, there are a lot of just little skips in these platforming sections. this section is another one that is like fairly long. Casually, but you can see I'm using the flail to charge attack to get much faster movement. Rolling is pretty fast, but the charge attack with the flail is quite a bit faster, even with the extra time that you have to do. And then I don't know if I got it there. There is a camera pan skip that you can get here by walking off the edge at just the right time with player 1, while player 2 activates the end, but I think I missed it somehow. I don't think I hit the piece of collision that you usually hit. No, I did get it. That's nice. But yeah, he just pulls out the axe twice instead of you having to watch a camera pan. And we'll see if I can get this. This is called chandelier skip. It doesn't really look like much because it's like, oh, hey, there's a bow right there. You can just hit the target and be done with it. But there's actually a very long camera pan and a lot of just stuff. It also activates smog, who can kill you, but you can skip that there by doing a spin through the chandelier. There's a lot of ways to do that, but we'll skip, and now we're on the final level. I think this parkour, or not really parkour, but this movement part actually went pretty well, aside from this Lego piece RNG.
Oh, yeah, that's not great. But other than that, yeah, no, that was very clean. And we now go into what is unfortunately our only cutscene in the run. This cutscene is completely unskippable for reasons we have pretty much no idea why, whether they intentionally did this or forgot to leave something in the code or something. But yeah, this is just a cutscene we have to watch. It's unfortunately a rather long cutscene.
Yeah, it's one of the longest in the game. I think it might be the second longest, but it's interesting, especially for restricted any percent runs, because you kind of have like all this pressure. You've been playing so well for 15-20 minutes in what's a very fast-paced run, and then you just have to kind of sit back and just like wait for a minute and 45 seconds ish, and just kind of be like, okay, I gotta play very well here, because this is like what I was talking about. This section has 3 pretty difficult launches to do consistently every time. So it's why it's such a great level to end on, because there's a lot of skill involved. There's a little bit of RNG, which just keeps things interesting, and the scenery is just really cool. So, yeah. Very fun level. But yeah, so basically what's happening here is they're just getting smog. They're taunting him to ignite furnaces so that they can kind of outsmart him. And eventually, at the end of the level, cover him with gold to sort of freeze him in place.
Get those bellows working. Go!
So yeah, we'll be seeing launch number 1 here. It's a pretty cool one. Very nice. So that's just a buddy up launch in between 2 little carts there.
We got another launch, which is a 1 try here. I think Hamster's going for it.
Yes, I will. Kind of messed up the movement, because usually it's predictable if you get the bad buddy up there, but I think I did it. That was a very high launch, and I ended up behind it, which is unfortunate, but there is a backup. You can't actually do that launch more than once because you're partially out of bounds when you do that launch, but there's that backup right there, which you can do.
Very nice. Yeah, that the first launch of those 2 was known as Loz launch. You'll never guess who it was found by.
Yeah.
Shoutouts to Loz for finding that. And it saves a surprising amount, actually. It's more consistent than the other one, usually.
Yeah.
And it saves about 5 seconds, I'd say.
Yeah, it saves a decent chunk of movement. It's crazy that it's kind of at the point where you're doing time saves like that just to get like a better line, but it's a very nice one.
And of course, Hamster is predicting the future right here. He knows for somehow some kind of divine intuition. He knows that those always go red, blue, red. It's definitely not the same every time that he walks into the level. it definitely changes every time. So props to Hamster for knowing that.
Yeah, so here this is kind of the final boss fight. You throw these fire, or I think they're called flash flames, at Smog. At a cycle, you can't just mash them. If you throw them at a cycle, it's kind of important because you can hit him most efficiently. But that leads us into the final room of the game with one of the most difficult skips.
Yeah, so this is Jack Launch, named after Jack Juggler, and I think this particular setup the Hamster is going for and getting incredibly first try. That is the hardest launch in the game. I think that one was found by Laser, but
That's time
is,
yeah.
Very nicely done. Just underestimate as well.
Oh, even with the 5-6 minutes of difficulties in the first level, that's
149.31.
Yeah, that's impressive that we got that over with.
Yeah. So if that was technically a solo run, which I mean it mostly was, apart from me just being a problem in the first level, that is a world record by over 10.5 minutes.
Yeah, not a very optimized category, at least in the solo. The co-op record is pretty alright, but solo record, not very good at all. So, I don't know, maybe I'll improve that in the future, but yeah, fun run. If you want to give Hobbit a try, there are some tutorials out there, and just lots of people in the Discord. And yeah, thank you to Paxo for commentary, and all the LEGOthon people for putting this on. It's always a very fun event, and it's for a very good cause, so yeah. I don't know if you have anything you want to shout out, Paxo, anyone?
Just shout out the whole community, really. Obviously, Hamster for carrying me even more than I thought he would through this run. Jack, Laser, anyone else who's been in the kind of in and around the game, just all the series mods, everyone who just takes part in LEGO games. You know, you're what makes this stuff amazing. So yeah, I think that's me done.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching.